wood and plastic,
Well,
not metal.
Mainly wood on this one.
Yeah.
If you're going to cut any acrylic, this is a bit lighter weight, it's got a finer blade on it. This is much better for heavier. I think technically this would usually be used for like ripping up carcasses in meat factories and things. So it's quite vicious.
But yeah, don't, yeah.
Which you're welcome to do.
Yeah, of course.
You've done a risk assessment.
So, firstly, it's a bandsaw, and it's called a bandsaw because the blade on it is one big band that goes all the way around the machine. So, this is the blade. You'll be able to see the difference between the two. This one moves up and down with this one handle. Steve's loosens off and you have to lift the thing up and down yourself by hand. So you can see out the blade on the, that goes all the way around. When you come to this machine, first thing you need to do is set it up for yourself. When you arrive at it, it should be set right back down like that to the bottom. And equally when you finish with it, you should leave it in that position. If you've only got one cut to do on a piece of wood like this, and somebody's left it open like that, chances are you'll turn it on and do that. And you've got all that blade exposed, so it's dangerous. But also, because it's got tension between bearings and bearings here to keep the blade straight, the more of it exposed, the wonkier blade can go, so you don't get a nice crisp cut. So your first thing to do is to set this up with this. The way you do that is open it up, put your wood in there near the blade, and then lower it, and keep getting down and looking whether you can still pass the wood through. So I can get the wood through there. When I'm coming to cut, I can't really get my fingers in because there's no room for them. So that makes it safe. If I had it wide open, then of course I've got a lot of chance that I can catch it with my fingers. And we generally say to people, try to imagine a 10 centimetre circle around it. You don't want your fingers to be going any closer than that. So if they are going to go closer, push sticks that are on the front of the machine magnetised. So you can see how cut up they are. That's because they've been in the teeth of the machine. They're much better these than fingers. So you can actually control your wood by pushing it through with those. You might only need one if you're using the fence. The fence is what you set if you want to cut something with a straight line. So if we want to cut something at a given measurement, I can set my ruler to 10 centimetres or something on here. When you want to go on this machine during the session, give us a shout and someone will run over this with you and show you how to set it up there. I can then put that against there and send it through the blade, knowing that the distance from the blade to the fence is 10 centimetres away. So you can make reasonably accurate cuts with this. And when I'm pushing it through against the fence, I'll take over this corner initially and a hand there, and whilst pushing it forward, I'll also be pushing it to the side to keep it against there so it doesn't veer off. So we do get a straight cut. Might want to push stick for that when I get closer to the end. You ready your side?
Yep.
So once you've got it set like that, it's ready to go. Goggles on. There's a red, have you got red and green as well? Yeah. Red and green on off switches. And an emergency stop switch above it. Only use the emergency stop if there's an emergency. And when you've turned it on, give it about 5 to 10 seconds to get going. Because it's a big blade, it takes time. And if you put it through too soon, it's not cutting efficiently. So you can kind of hear it kind of go up to speed when you reach that pitch. And then push your wood through. You don't want to go really, really quickly, but you can go quite fast. You get used to how that feels. When you finish your cut, turn it off. If you've got any wood still around there, only remove the wood once the blade's stopped. And then when you finish that, twist that down so it's ready for the next person. You do not have to use the fence on this. You can cut through by hand, and you can curve slightly, but but only a small amount because it's a blade run between bearings. If you do too much, you pop it off the wheel. So you can freehand and you can put a certain amount of curvature on it. Just be careful with certain woods that have got splinters on the bottom side. This plywood tends to splinter quite a lot because the blade's cutting on a downstroke. The underside of it will have a little splinter of it. So get a bit of sandpaper or something and take those off so you're not getting them in your hands. And then down with that, up on there. Simple. Any questions? Also use these heat guns. So leave them stood up like this, you don't have to handle them, and they're pumping hot air up. Put some gloves on, heat-proof gloves these, and hold the perspex over the top of it. That'll start to heat up, and at a certain point it'll become soft enough for you to be able to bend and manipulate. Now either do that with a pair of pliers, or bend it round a block of wood, or bend it against the desk. Once you've bent it to the angle or shape you want it at, don't just let go of it because it will still be soft and it will start to spring back. Hold it in the position you want it to stay in until it's had time to cool down, and then it will set at that. And when you finish with these, obviously turn them off. Anything like that with a plastic coating on it, take the plastic coating off first because that'll just burn and melt. If I bend that over, when you're finished with them, obviously turn them off, and when you approach this desk, assume that they're hot, and someone might have just finished with them and then turned it off and walked away. So you leave that for a short while. You can test just by lifting it up slowly to see whether it's going to spring back, and once it's cooled down enough, it will hold that position. So, still really hot, and you can feel it's quite soft. You could forge things around objects, but if you know you want something of particular shape, we do actually have an oven upstairs that we can heat this up in, and then we can actually drop it over objects and it'll take that form. So this is kind of a hands-on way of doing it. But always use the gloves if you're going to be touching anything hot. The only thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to be able to clamp them down to the table or fix them into something. Because they're more resistant, if you put the tool against it, it might want to fling it out. So we have some quick clamps, which are these. They work with a little button there to loosen it off, and you can slide that up and down. So you can get it roughly to the size you want it. I was putting it on a bench like that, I might put it against it there. And then once you've got it roughly in place, you tighten it up by squeezing the trigger, and you can see what that's doing. It's almost getting the aperture shorter, so you can clamp that so it becomes tighter. So for something like that, you can tighten it up. So on the edge of a desk, be aware that when you're clamping it, check that the underside of the desk is perfectly flat. If it isn't, and you don't get that flat, it could slip. You might need two on an object to stop it from rotating, and it feels natural to do this with it, but what happens if you do it like that is you end up with this big thing sticking in the air, so you'll end up with that in the pathway that you're trying to work. So the best thing to do is turn it round and fix them the other way. And that way you've got an open space to work in. But other than that, the Dremels are the same tools on there, and these Multimasters have got the same tools on as you used on the sketchbook. So it's just seeing what they do with the materials. So tend to stick to the woods on here, or some of the plastics, but not really the metals over here. If you create a lot of dust on anything, use this lovely hoover to suck the dust up with. And that's mainly for these two. You won't really pick up much dust over there. So at this table we've got a couple of jigsaws and we've got some drills with various drill bit sizes. So if you want to drill some holes into things, you know, just put holes in for ready for next week, just mark making so we can fix things, use the drills. Drill in the centre bit of this messed up table, not on the good edge, or clamp it down and drill over the edge so you're not going into the table. I've got some more. The jigsaw itself, they're both identical. Triggers underneath there, so you'll be holding it like that, and you've got your fingers to pull up. That sets the blade going, let go when it's done. Like all power tools, cable behind, don't put it down until you've finished. Don't have it against what you're cutting when you turn it on, because it will just judder around. Turn it on first, and then go to your material. When you're working with this, you want to keep whatever you're cutting against, you want the jigsaw completely flat against it. You don't want to be holding it like this, because it's unbalanced. So you have it flat against your surface, so you can go through it. And of course, like anything, you probably want to clamp this down so it's fixed. So you'll need to hang it over the edge of the desk. I might get a second one in there if I can. So with this I might want to cut a section off. So if you're cutting over the edge of the desk, just be aware where the desk is, so you're not cutting into the desk. So you can get the edge of it there, the blade about a centimetre away from the wood, but it's still balanced. Turn it on, it'll set off going, and then you can just cut through the wood. So you can cut curved angles, straight lines. You can notch lines into it if you want to cut some things out, but it will do quite acute curvatures. Then unclamp it, clamps back on the table, there you go. But there's drills there and lots of different drill bits. As I said though, clamp it down and drill over the edge of the desk so you're not going into the workbenches. Yeah.